Hello everybody, and in this video we're going to be covering loops in C#. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is that we're going to make a new C# script for our examples in loops. So I'm going to go to my scripts folder, right click, I'm going to create a new C# script. I'm going to label this loops, and then I have my game object from last time. I've removed the other component from there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this loops, and I'm going to add this to my game object, and then I'm going to open up the loops C# script in Visual Studios. So now that we have our script file opened up, we're going to first cover the for loop. So the for loop, I'm going to go ahead and, as this example, we can create this inside the start or the update for it to run depending on its iteration. That means the different steps that it has to go through. So if I was to test this out inside of the start method, I'm going to go ahead and put 2 /. So I'll put for loop example. And then just below this, you'll start off with the word for, followed by an open and close parentheses. This is like the parameters. And inside here, we can set up the parameters. So we start off with the int integer, followed by the I, usually for the iteration. And that starts off at 0 with a semicolon, followed by the letter I, the variable I, and then depending on what the condition is, let's say 5, semicolon, and then I plus plus, and then I'm going to put our curly brackets here. And so the setup here is that when I is 0, it's going to check for the condition here. If I is less than 5, then we're going to go ahead and increment I by 1 and then run whatever statement or code is in here, and then do this again, and eventually once I reaches 5, then it will stop. So here, let's print to the console. So we can do this with a debug.log, and then in double quotes I'm going to write the word iteration followed by a colon and a space. This white space will be printed out, and then I'm going to print out whatever the value of the letter I is to the console. So I'm going to go ahead and save my work here. So back in Unity, if you don't have your console opened up, if this console is missing, you're going to want to go to Window, General, and then down to console to make sure the console window is opened up to see what's being printed with our debug.log message. So I'll play test. And here, now that we've ran through a play test, here the iteration, it started off at 0, it printed 0, then it printed 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Because in our code, it was whenever I was less than 5. So it won't print out 5 because I never is equal to 5 in that instance. And so that's our example of our for loops. Okay. So now that we're going to cover the while loop, I'm going to come just below my for loop in the start method. I'm going to put my comment here for while loop. And for the while loop, we still need a starting condition, just like the for loop, where the integer of I equals something that we can then check through. So for us, we're going to create a num, and this num, we'll start this num out at 0. And then based on the information, I'm going to write the keyword while with the open close parentheses. And then inside here, if num is less than 5, then I'm going to print to the console. And I'm going to print out number So we know what number is being printed. Now, the difference here with a while loop, in order for the num to get updated, we have to update it here as a statement. Whereas in the for loop, running through the iteration, it will automatically update it here in the for loop iteration. For us as a while loop, I need to take my num and then plus plus down here so that it runs through that as well. So let's go ahead and save our work and test this out. I'm going to run the play test. It's going to run all the information here in the console. The very first one here, iteration 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the for loop happening. And then here number is 0, number is 1, number is 2, number is 3, and number is 4. So that is the while loop running there as well. So there we have two different examples. Our third example is to cover a for each loop. These are iterations through arrays or lists of information. So we'll do the for each loop example. And so we'll start off with a string, and we'll go with some fruits. And this is going to equal, we'll say, we'll go with apple, banana, and orange. So this is a setup of an array of string values, and we'll look at that later on when we get into arrays. And from this, let's go ahead and run through our for each. So we use the keyword for each, followed by the open and close parentheses. And then for each on the string, that's the actual data type of fruit in fruits. And then I'm going to go ahead and debug.log. So let's find out what fruits are being printed out from our array of strings here. So what's happening here is that for each string, and we provide a variable name of the fruit in the singular that's in this array of fruits, so more than one. So let's go ahead and save our work. So I'm going to go ahead and play test again. And so we'll run back through. Here are all the original printouts. But at the very bottom here, there's my fruit for my apple, fruit for my banana, and fruit for my orange. So that's what the output was from that array of string values. And so our last example that we're going to cover will be the do while loop. So our do while loop is similar to the while loop, but with a small difference. In a do while loop, the code block is executed first, and then the condition is checked. If the condition is true, the loop will continue to execute. So let's take a look at what that actually means. So I'm going to create another integer value. I'll use x, and I'll set this to 0. And then I'm going to use the word do, followed by the open and close parentheses, is that I'm going to debug. I'm going to print something out first. And let's check the value. So I'll check the value of x. So we're going to go ahead and print out, check the value of x. Then we're going to increment x by 1. So the plus plus is a shorthand to update its value by 1. Then after here, while, and then when we're going to run the while condition, we're going to check for x is less than 3. And so let's go ahead and see what happens here. So do while, it's going to go ahead and print out update as long as the x is less than 3. And let's see what happens here. So in this example for the do while is at the very bottom. So it prints out the value of 0, prints out the value of 1 for x, and prints out the value of 2. So there we have it. So these are the 4 different examples of loops that you can encounter in your C# programming or in other programming languages. We have the for loop, the while loop, the for each loop, and the do while loop. Hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next video.